Transforming Food System, Youth Innovation for Human and Planet Health, which seeks to highlight the impact of COVID-19, the pandemic, particularly related to its effect on human health and environment and food system. With that said, Excellencies and the honorable guests, I would like to officially welcome you to this webinar. It's organized by the Office of the Acting COO, Chief Operational Officer in the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, Gender and Diversity Management, with the Office of the Honorable Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, who is here with us today, Mr. Alvin Botes, in collaboration with the University of KwaZulu-Natal, UKZN, as we know it. Thank you so much. This webinar, it follows the theme above, as I mentioned, and young people are bringing innovative solutions and new perspective to address challenges the world faces today. Some of the issues we want to focus on: the role of young people in maintaining and promoting international peace and security. As we know that the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2250 does give us that important mandate in terms of, as young people, how do we then lead in terms of promoting peace in the community that we at. So the pillars that we would like to focus on is of participation, protection, prevention, partnership, and all the issue of integration as well. How do then young people integrate important element as well? But in particular, we look at food, we look at the system, look at how the whole food chain it's happening, and that's our focus today. And the University of KwaZulu-Natal takes this important engagement seriously. And no surprise that they've honored us with the presence of Deputy Vice Chancellor Kise, College of Humanities. We also have the Deputy Vice Chancellor as well from the College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science as well, who will participate in the panel discussion later on as well, which we want to hear from. Well, in terms of the panel, it's quite an important panel that we've gathered together. I will actually give them a brief a chance to give their opening remarks at the beginning of their talk, but also give you in details who they are, where they come from, and some of the work that they have done. But for this important, we have Professor Albert Mondi, Deputy Vice Chancellor and Head of the College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. We do have Ms. Dimpo Maseko. She holds an honors degree in political science from the University of KwaZulu-Natal as well. So in terms of the youth representation, issues of innovation and also development, that's why it's important to involve the National Youth Development Agency. Nompumelelo Zuma is here with us. She's the Durban branch manager with 14 years experience working with SMMEs and cooperatives, development, training and funding and opportunities in KwaZulu-Natal province as well. We do have Ms. Gabriela Nechama Faber, youth activist as well, who is the board member of Kodena, International Humanitarian Aid NGO as well. So some of the detailed description which I'm going to give later just inform us in terms of why they're participating in this important webinar as well. So we'll also be taking your questions. I would like to ask you to use the question and answer session for raising those important questions for us and engaging with us, and the questions for the deputy ministers and the deputy vice chancellors who are engaging us on this important platform as well. So thank you so much for making time to join us. In terms of the house rule, you can keep your video on for now for the purpose of a photograph. I know that our photographers, our media team wants to take a few photographs. If you may just switch on your cameras, please, and our photographers, so that they can able to capture everyone who is participating in this important webinar as well. I would like to, as the media team is busy, just to introduce you to Professor Kise, PhD, the former head of the School of Psychology, and former dean and former head of the School of Applied Human Sciences at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. He teaches modules on African philosophy, psychology, ethics, with reference to African philosophical underpinning on ethics, and also touching on interface between culture, health, and illness, just to mention the few as well. So we are really honored to have you, Prof, in this important webinar, which your university helped us organize together with the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, DIRCO in brief. So I would like us to give you this opportunity to welcome us in this virtual platform, but also in true sense, if the Deputy Minister was there physically with you, the Deputy Minister was going to say, welcome us into your institution. Prof. Kise.
Thank you very much, Program Director, for those very, very warm words. And indeed, we do welcome you to our institution, the University of KwaZulu-Natal, the premier university of African scholarship. I do extend our greetings to the Deputy Minister of the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, Mr. Alvin Botes, and all the dignitaries, officials from DIRCO, the university executive management who are here, partners from around the world, staff and students from the university, members of the community, members of the panel, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. The University of KwaZulu-Natal is very proud to be a partner to this important platform with DIRCO. On behalf of our Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Nana Bogu, who would have liked to be here today but is caught up in other engagements, it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you present on this platform to attend and engage on the theme, Transforming Food Systems, Youth Innovation for Human and Planetary Health. Together with DIRCO, we explore this critical topic to improve the livelihood of humankind. We meet to commemorate the Youth Day, which focuses on the pillar of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2250 on youth, peace and security. This resolution is the first international policy framework that recognizes the positive role that young people play in preventing and resolving conflict, countering violent extremism, and building peace. The resolution identifies 5 key pillars for action, and those are participation, protection, prevention, partnerships, and disengagement and reintegration. It is with great pride that I announce that UKZN has established a program on food insecurity to feed and nourish our students in times of hunger and lack. And Professor Albert Modi, who is our chairman in that regard, will be telling us a bit more about this. Food insecurity is a critical challenge affecting many households in post-apartheid South Africa. According to the 2017 report by Statistics South Africa, food poverty had increased by 2.8 million in head count from 11 million in 2011 to 13.8 million in 2015. The most vulnerable were low-income households. As South Africa and the rest of the world continue to grapple with the COVID-19 pandemic, it became clear that there was an urgent need to establish programs of increased social support to protect members of the UKZN community that come from poor and vulnerable households. I launched a hardship fund to address food insecurity and hygiene amongst students and staff. This response is acknowledging the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is likely to be most severe for the vulnerable within the university community. Our Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Nana Bogu, was the first to contribute to the fund, pledging a third of his monthly salary over 3 months. He called on all UKZN stakeholders to contribute, including staff, students, suppliers, service providers, funders, alumni, the donor community, friends of the university, loyal stakeholders. And we are very, very pleased that our student community partnered with us and also initiated activities of their own in support of this initiative. As part of this initiative, UKZN launched a drive on all its campuses for staff and students to donate non-perishable goods such as foods, toiletries, sanitary pads, and other items. UKZN is an institution that cares about our societies, communities, and the world we live in. To this end, we engage with a range of stakeholders locally and internationally to pursue a research and learning position to improve the lives of all. This partnership endorses our objective to contribute meaningfully to the world we are part of and make a tangible contribution to the knowledge economy. I wish you fruitful engagement and constructive deliberations on this topical issue which touches the life of many around the world. With those background words, a very, very warm welcome to the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and we again look forward to an excellent deliberation today. I thank you all.
Thank you so much, Prof. Kise. It's quite important, obvious that this university is definitely putting its research in action. So research and also what's being done also in our communities is there for everyone to see. It's quite an important way for us to start to say we are doing something about issues of food security already. So I think we've gotten a very good start from you, Prof, in terms of what next, then how do we take it forward? I'm glad that Professor Modi will definitely elaborate on that in terms of what is being done, be able to see how other universities and other provinces can actually copy the same thing as well, but collaborate in terms of even research and research projects as well. It's quite important. Thank you so much, Prof. We really appreciate you giving us those important opening remarks and marching orders, but also opening this discussion for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
This moment, I will definitely want to acknowledge also the presence of Ms. Noma Zondo, who's the Acting Executive Director, Corporate Relations Division as well from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. She joins us, making sure that everything runs smoothly throughout the day, also with her team as well. Thank you so much for allowing us to engage in this platform. I would like also to take this opportunity to invite the Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Mr. Alvin Botes, who has been the Deputy Minister for DIRCO, in short, in the Republic of South Africa from 30 May 2019. Also, he serves as a member of the African National Congress. Also, just looking at some of the work he has done. Also, he serves on the MEC for cooperative governance, human settlements, and traditional affairs. Development as well in the Northern Cape province as well. So someone who has been quite engaged on issues of community development as well. So want to take this opportunity, Deputy Minister, to invite you to deliver a keynote address on this important day, International Youth Day. Deputy Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tali of Ubuntu Radio, who is the co-host. And in particular, I wish to acknowledge the stewardship of the University of KwaZulu-Natal under the auspices of Professor Kise and Professor Modi for their presence today. I am happy that we also have a alumni member from the University of KZN and honors graduate, Ms. Dimpo Maseko, present. I wish to further express gratitude to Ms. Nompumelelo Zuma of the National Youth Development Agency for presence, and we are graced also with the Press Gabriela Faber, and I wish to just further acknowledge the presence of the members of the diplomatic community, consul generals, ambassadors, and members of the United Nations multilateral agencies that actually on our platform. Program Director, I think we cannot overemphasize the centrality of International Youth Day that is singularly dedicated to the role that young women and young men are supposed to play in tackling global issues and achieving sustainable development. I think we give appreciation for the role of the prime multilateral organization, the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, who in 1999 have agreed for this universal recognition of International Youth Day following the Lisbon Youth Conference convened in 1998. But I think importantly for our audience and for young people generally, is that it creates an opportunity to dissect the challenges, the difficulties that young people face in everyday society. But more importantly, it provides a corridor of opportunity as it relates to how to ensure that young people tomorrow have a better future than young people of yesterday. The Filipino social activist Jose Rizal have underpinned this point by stating that young people is the singular hope of our future. If that future must be brighter, it must be a future that negates from poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And it is for that reason why we welcome as the South African government the 2021 thematic approach towards International Youth Day, which is entitled Transforming Food Systems, Youth Innovation for Human and Planetary Health. I think what we are emphasizing as a government is that we must use this opportunity to exchange views and sentiments between the state and non-state actors present here today as it relates to questions of education, healthcare, employment, and the complete participation of young people in the public life. But equally so, we, through the youth activists present here, would want to appreciate further the youth activism role and the Celestine type of contributions that young people are making, not only in the realm of food security, but in the everyday life of young people, in particular in South Africa. Tali, the issue that, of course, must concern the government and that must concern young people is that the global priorities of the United Nations, amongst others, the question of climate change, unemployment, poverty, gender inequality, conflict, and migration, it's intertwined to the plight of young people, because the contemporary challenges faced today is likely to challenges that young people tomorrow will be faced with normally at the aggravated level, unless there can be deeper partnership and cooperation with young people that are supposed to ensure the building blocks for their future it's non-negotiable. Secondly, we do recognize that the United Nations Security Council, through Resolution 2250, which was adopted through acclamation, have said we must continue to be seized with the question of peace and security as it relates to the sustainability of the planet, as it relates to the issues of food systems, which my submission, Tali, the issue of food systems, it actually lies squarely at the intersection of several overarching goals of the United Nations and member states, in particular, the embodiment and the realization of the 17 anti-poverty sustainable goals of the United Nations. Key and critical, of course, for us is that we must give thought that look at the character, the nature, and generally the typology of the type of food systems today. It is my submission that food systems has been designed to address in particular problems of the mid-20th century, which was the provision of ample, cheap, shelf-stable, and of course starchy calories for growing population, fortified with key micronutrients which were feasible to present clinical nutrient deficiency. But what we must speak about today is that that type of food systems, it is my submission, is no more relevant for the young population dividend that we have in South Africa and Africa. Given the fact that, Tali, we must recognize and appreciate there is a dialectical relationship between the fact that the obesity rate in South Africa stands at 28.3%, which in effect, in a very language, means that South Africa is sub-Saharan Africa's fattest nation, which is obese, because of the type of food systems designed for the 20th century. And that means that our level of obesity rate us as a third highest in the entire African continent.
Recording in progress.
Not commensurate with the growth of our growing population dividend that we are actually having in South Africa and in particular in Africa. But of course, Lali, we must speak about what is the recent issues that concern our government. We have seen just recently with the social upheaval, which have taken place amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change. The social upheaval that took place in KZN and parts of Gauteng have actually left us quite vulnerable, because your food security system has
Recording in progress.
For secure food security systems of the entirety of the 16 member states within the Southern Africa Development Community. As I conclude, Lali, you know, there's a number of issues that I would want young people obviously to be alerted up on. Myself, having graduated from the youth age court not so long ago, is a question I want to pose, is that we have 26 universities, public universities in South Africa. We have more than 50 TVET colleges that actually house 700,000 students as we are speaking, why is it that less percentage of those 700,000 students have an inclination or an appetite to deepen their understandings within agricultural and food security sector? We have less students in plant pathology, in horticulture, in crop sciences. We have less students, in particular African students, in pomology, which is the science of fruit growing. And I think those are issues that young people should continue to be seized with. Secondly, the one contextual issue that I hope generally young people are starting to be seized with is that the South African government, through our President Ramaphosa, have, for example, agreed to extend the 350 Rand special COVID social relief of distress, your SRD grant, as a recognition about the centrality of food security amidst your COVID-19 pandemic. There is societal debates about the need to for government to introduce, for example, your basic income grant, your big grant. But importantly, the finance minister have said that he is a proponent rather for the investment in young people for employability opportunities and the enhancements of economic skills of young people. And my submission today really is that those are two intertwined, interrelated issues, hopefully at the societal level, that young people, as it relates to International Youth Day, should be seized with. Allow me lastly to just express a gratitude to our ambassador in Benin, Ambassador Ruby Marks, who with Professor Modi of the University of KZN has engaged in a partnership program as it relates to institutional building and capabilities of the agricultural sector of Benin. And in the course of South Africa, as we implement our bilateral agreement and program, we got a number of requests from various host countries to assist with the establishment and improvement of food security infrastructure, self-selected circumstances, but under circumstances existing already, given and transmitted from the past, paraphrase, unquote. Thank you very much, and I am keen to listen to the views from, in particular, the non-state sector today. Thank you very much, Tali.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister. Some will say that it's too much pressure when you are saying that the youth are a single hope in terms of a single hope, the hope in terms of where we need to go in terms of our future. Young people will say maybe you're putting too much pressure on us, but maybe that's how you value the contribution that young people should make, regardless of how they see their capabilities. In wherever they are, in terms of where they are. And it's important that you have already acknowledged from the state side that the government, from the government perspective, opportunities will be created for young people to come through, even through various academic institutions as well, to make sure that if they have got skills and the interest in agriculture, they've got those opportunities as well. But I'm happy that Deputy Minister, you're going to engage us further on these issues in terms of what are the other member states doing in the African continent to make sure that with the amount of land available in the African continent, are African leaders leveraging on that as well? As much as we want to leverage on the youth dividend, are we leveraging on terms of political and also the space that we have as well? I'm glad that we've got individuals that will engage us today in the panel. And Deputy Minister, thank you so much for staying on, that you continuously engage us on various issues that they will engage on this afternoon as well. I want to take this opportunity to invite the Professor Alvin Botes, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science, as with the University of KwaZulu-Natal. I know that we have spoken a lot, and even Prof. Kise did mention about quite a number of programs that is being done by the professor in terms of also making sure that issues of food security are addressed. And Deputy Vice Chancellor and Head of the College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science, has been a Dean and Head of School of Agriculture, Earth and Environmental Science from 2011 to 2016. He was employed by the University of Natal in 1996 and has been associated with UKZN since then. So joining the university, he was a provincial agronomist for PHI Hybrid International, a job that exposed him in the agronomy and the rural development issues as well. So it's not someone who is who is not afraid to get his hands dirty. So I'm quite happy that this afternoon he will engage us and then really get deeper into the mud of things as far as agriculture is concerned. How do we then secure the future of our youth as well, but then the future of our country and our continent as well? Prof, I'll give you just a few minutes for opening remarks, and then I'll get other panelists as well, Dimpo Maseko, Mpumelelo Zuma, together with Gabriel Faber as well, to come through with their opening remarks. Professor Modi, the time is yours. Hi, Professor.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd just like to greet everyone. Deputy Minister, thank you very much for the comments that you've just made. And I was just saying, Program Director, I was told that I've got about 10 minutes, which is a lot of seconds. If you multiply that by 60. So I'll try to stick to my 10 minutes because I'd like to take this opportunity to share with you the experiences of UKZN with the people. You can see I've given myself a title here. In fact, this is your title. And you've never seen a professor who cannot spell, right? Can you see youth is not spelled correctly there? Something is missing about our youth, right? that is the message, you see. So just an overview of the challenges and opportunities, particularly in the context of what is happening in the country and KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, I think the first thing that we need to do is to just be reminded of the human development. It's always been a response to revolution and innovation. We respond to changes in order for us to develop. And currently, there are a number of challenges as a result of COVID-19 for our government. And one of them is decision-making with respect to food security. What are your strategies as government? What are you doing to refine or redefine the value chain system to incorporate young people and women? And I want to challenge people. It's not about having qualifications in agriculture. It's about having qualifications at university, full stop. And we need an integrated system of teaching people, young people at school and at universities. So just briefly, let me just highlight what is happening with respect to the strategy of UKZN as far as student food insecurity. We are very thankful to a number of organizations that support our food security program. We've got agreements with them, and they've been providing our food. But most importantly, what is very impressive is the high-level participation of the leadership in food security programs. They collect food, they deliver food, they share food with other students, and they assist us in recording this information. But what I think is unique about KZN is our new strategy, which we agreed upon on Food Day last year. We agreed upon as students, because I'm leading the program, and it is called hashtag Stretch My NSFAS Rent. The government is doing a lot to assist our students, to give them funds, and NSFAS is what is used to support our student tuition and food security. But I'm afraid it is shared with family members. It is shared with extended family members. If you look at the student who is coming from the rural areas and townships, a student who does not have a mother, a student who does not have a father, So the contribution that is made is also challenging the students to think very carefully about how they use 100 Rand. Can you buy healthy food and stretch it to buy as much as possible, that 100 Rand? Well, you can. Think about where you're coming from as a human being. You see, you started off not knowing what is edible and what is not edible, to the point where a long time ago, you developed your brain to be able to walk and manipulate things in the environment. And this happened mainly in Africa. All humans originate from this continent. You can see in this map, the movement of people largely from Southern Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, are moving first to Asia, back to Africa, and then to Europe. And yet, Africa is still behind in everything. The ability to feed yourself, the ability to provide medication for yourself. We are still using the curriculum that is largely defined on the basis of the knowledge that is coming from outside of Africa, not indigenous knowledge. And that's another message that I want to put forward here. I mean, think about the pandemics. COVID-19 is a very serious problem, but let's think about it. It's not the first time that we are facing pandemics. Can we turn it around so that we take a step forward in terms to the issues that we are facing as humanity, okay? There have been many deadly diseases in the past. What have we learned? We've developed more from the medical side of things, from the nutritional side of things. What is your contribution in Africa? Look at the economy of Africa, okay? So the first thing that I would like to ask, coming from the fields of study that I am in and my activism as an academic of UKZN in community engagement, is the question is, what is agriculture? The Deputy Minister is saying the reason why, between the lines, many young people do not take agriculture is that they don't know what agriculture is, okay? I mean, look at the economy of Africa and find the percentage contribution of agriculture to the economy. That's actually a misnomer. Okay, it's about 5%. Actually, if you look at the backward and forward linkages of agriculture to industry and services, you will agree with me that agriculture is actually greater than 5%. Would there be pick and pay? Would there be
Recording in progress.
innovation and policy to make sure that this is going to be taken care of? My challenge, and I'm not saying that it's my problem, but it is the issue that I want to push forward as a legacy when I leave this life of academia. I want to reintroduce indigenous knowledge in our agriculture. And if I introduce it in our agriculture, I will introduce it elsewhere. So one of the issues that are pushed forward by the leadership of this university, the executive leadership led by our Vice Chancellor, Professor Nana Poku, is how do you revise your curriculum so that your students are employable? And I mean agriculture, I mean sciences, this is what I'm gonna do. And I'm very glad he's actually also encouraging us to look at indigenous knowledge, not only from sciences, also look at it from humanities. I've already told you about the contribution and how you link it backward and forward. But here is the challenge that we have. The University of KwaZulu-Natal has got a large number of students who are coming from poor backgrounds. South Africa has got a large number of people who are moving from the poor provinces to the so-called rich provinces. You mentioned the tragedy that happened a couple of weeks ago in South Africa. Where was it? Yeah, let's look at this. Do you see the red? The red is the leakage of human resources from the regions to the provinces that got the promised land. Look at the Western Cape and Gauteng. A large majority of people from the Eastern Cape are living in the Western Cape. Okay, there's poverty there. We need to correct that. I work with people in the rural areas. I took this picture 2 weeks ago at Umbumbulu in KwaZulu-Natal, and I'm starting a program that is going to include this training of people from Benin, for example, visiting South Africa and seeing what is happening. This is a rural area, right, in KwaZulu-Natal. Is this a better place than an urban area? Let me ask you, Program Chair. Well, there is no question. It is a better place. This is where people move to when they leave Umbumbulu and they say, no, I'm going to Durban or I'm going to Joburg. It is
Recording in progress.
Of women, which is actually very deep-rooted. But we need, as the leadership of South Africa, as well as the leadership in university, to look beyond Africa. Okay, sorry, to look beyond our South Africa, our province, and our rural areas and urban areas. So I'm saying here, look, see Africa, not India. Look at Africa. Look at how many people are in Africa. Many of them are young people. A large number of people in Africa are actually young people. What are you doing to take advantage of this in order to grow the economy of South Africa together with the economy of Africa? You will fail as a government or anyone else with a strategist if you focus only on South Africa and you remove it away from Africa. Do it together, okay? A large number of young people in South Africa are not employed. As you know, I'm not going to repeat the facts. Here are the data in front of you, 63%. We need to employ them. What strategies do we have in order to create opportunities for them? We do have some organizations that are not getting enough support. We are therefore inviting people to contribute to this. If we do that, we'll then improve the footprint of an African in terms of the human welfare and ecological footprint. If you look at Africa here, if I had time, if this was a classroom, not just a narrative, I would indicate to you, this is where Africa is sitting. And this is defined by land, access to land. An American has got at least 2 hectares per person. And that 2 hectares is not the land that they own as a farmer, it is the land that is providing self-sufficiency to them. So a large number of people in the world are poor, but we need to create opportunities for access to resources, services, and markets so that the political and economic development, and I suggest, as you could see in my slide, subsistence farming. Go back to the rural areas and look at how subsistence farming can actually lift up agriculture, okay? The challenge is indigenous knowledge. What is it? Is it science? Is it agribusiness, okay? Is it economic development? Before I close, Program Director, I want to invite people who have got, doesn't matter what qualification you are having, look at opportunities such as, look at this. These are indigenous animals of Africa. Where is the market for them? How many of you have eaten goat meat? Okay, I mean, you know, look at drought that we're facing, goats, not grazers. They are less affected by climate change than anything else. Now look at people of Africa, the majority of people, particularly in this province and the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, we eat goat meat when we've got umsebenzi, right? Most of the time, but go to Spy and Pick and Pay, Where are you going to find goat meat? I tell you, there's a huge market in West Africa for goat meat. Ask Nigerians. They love goat meat. Why don't you create opportunities for rural people to have goats that are going to be exported to other parts of Africa? It is very healthy. Look at the amount of fat that you find in goat meat compared to other kinds of meat. Look at the other products that you can make. So think about the value chain system now. A young have to be a farmer. They can be in the post-harvest and processing stage of agriculture, and all they do is to buy that goat meat from rural people who've got a cooperative that grows food, and they take that food and they start a company, and they don't have to go to the farm. That's why I'm saying I don't care. I don't want you to have a degree in agriculture. Okay, so I'm going to return to some of the issues, Program Director, but I just want to highlight again the fact that we also have indigenous crops. And through science, we've shown, we've identified a number of indigenous crops. I remember I went to Ghana for the first time after many years of craving to go to Ghana. And on my way to the airport, I bought something from poor farmers, poor rural women. When I came back, I found that it is a wheat. Now, my research shows that these weeds have got medicinal properties. Look at this one. It's called shepherd's pest. Commercial farmers remove it. It is internal, external bleeding, urinary tract infection remedy. Do you have to have agriculture? You can come from medicine and work with somebody to identify these crops. You see, and look at this one. Look at this one, this study that we've done. Look at cabbage, which people like more than anything else. Compare it with mbuya, amaranthus, as far as the amount of selenium and vitamin C. These are the amount of iron in indigenous crops. So I'm going to close by suggesting to you that there are many opportunities in agriculture, not only through studying agriculture, but the final proposal that I want to make to everybody is that we must link food production to nutrition and human health outcomes. Okay, if we do that, we open more opportunities than just agriculture. The water and food nutrition health nexus is very important. Look at that water, look at the food, look at the nutrition and the health of the people. Look at those, come up with new strategy, new curriculum, and new connection of the government departments that are relevant. You've got a Department of Health, you've got a Department of Science and Innovation, you've got a Department of Agriculture. Make them combine their efforts for a sustainable rural economic development. Thank you, Program Chair.
Thank you so much. Prof, you have given us quite a number of issues that we have to focus on. I, for one, who is now in Gauteng and I'm from Venda in Limpopo, I think maybe I must leave this webinar now and just go to my rural home because there's just so much to do now. Things that I might have been ignoring all along. You want to chase us out now and we go home and leave this webinar.
Life is terrible in Gauteng, man, and Durban. Go back to the rural areas.
Yeah. No. We appreciate this important knowledge. But Prof, when we do question and answer, I have a challenge with the word indigenous.
Yes.
Because then we are saying it's not the norm. But I'll reserve that question. Please think about that one, because I've been having a problem with this thing of indigenous knowledge system. Can we just call it knowledge? Because sometimes there's a connotation maybe attached to the word indigenous. We'll get into that because maybe that is what makes agriculture and other things not attractive, because when you talk indigenous, we don't say it's science or predominantly said this is science. I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to focus on, Prof. I'm glad that you're not one who's shy of questions, taking questions. You can take as many questions as you can. Thank you so much for that. I really think that you have really given us quite a mouthful. I could say a lot, but let me reserve it because I'm sure that other scholars have an opinion as well. That's why I want to bring in Dimpho Maseko. She holds a honors degree in the political science field from your university, and her research interests are on the areas of peacekeeping, humanitarian activities as well. She's also passionate about education, currently teaches online on iTutor group as well. She previously volunteered as an educator for Mzumuhle primary school in Umlazi as well, south of Durban as well. I'm sure as you engage on issues of humanitarian assistance, issues of food does really future as well as far as humanitarian affairs is concerned as well. Dimpo, it's your time. You do have your own 10 minutes as well before we get to Nopumelelo as well. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much for the warm welcome, sir. To the program director, Mr. Talifani Mudedzi, the Deputy Minister of the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, Mr. Alvin Botes, Professor Nhlanhla Kise, Deputy Vice Chancellor and Head of College of Humanities, Professor Albert Modi, Deputy Vice Chancellor and Head of the College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science, Ms. Norma Zondo, Executive Director of Corporate Relations Division, fellow panel members, staff from DIRCO, UKZN staff, students and alumni present, members of the media, attendees, all protocol observed. Thank you so much for affording me the opportunity to participate in this webinar this afternoon. Today, I will discuss how food security is a growing concern in our global economy. In a world where obesity is one of the leading causes of death, from cardiovascular related diseases to cancer being the top 2 killers in the US, how is it that we still have more than 9 million people dying from hunger each year? To put this into perspective, the Mercy Corps measured that every year hunger kills more people than AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis combined. And most who fall victim to this are children, who make up 5.3 million of the 9 million mentioned. And although one would assume that food insecurity is subjected to only those who lack access to food, it also includes the many who grapple at the ingression of quality and nutritional foods. This draws attention to a scary notion which underlines that the global system is failing both the hungry and those who can access food, just not healthy food. Of course, this not only stresses the seriousness of the issue, but also highlights the urgency for us youth to come up with innovative ways to tackle this global ill. With these disheartening figures as fact, what does agriculture have to say for itself? Or even better, what have we to say for agriculture? A lot, actually. And today I will briefly draw attention to how innovative farms can be destroyed by them not having access to the head economy, and also discuss the merits of practicing subsistence farming and how it improves the living standards of people while tackling poverty and hunger. I think that the socio-political ramifications of colonialism on African countries and much of the developing world are an undeniable fact, which have dented, the practice of commercial farming for many of our peers. To just briefly touch on why commercial farming almost seems impractical for the youth is because youth-owned commercial farms or newly established commercial farms are faced with hindrances. The newly established farms face challenges when it comes to selling their produce. That tends to be a setback in the strategy of elevating poverty, because gaining a loss forces newly established farms to close, resulting in the retrenchment of many people, thus adding to the increasing global youth unemployment rate. Access to the head markets for these farmers becomes difficult if they are not within the inner sanctum of incumbent farming. The incumbent farmers create an economic and market system which is exclusionary because they use their economic power to gain political capital. I do agree that commercial farming is the dominant strategy for elevating poverty, as commercial farmers employ a large workforce and greatly contribute to the economy through sales and their relations with the state. But what about the poor with no connections, no land or capital? These people usually can't engage in commercial farming, or if they do, they don't succeed. There are, however, proactive ways that can be explored to circumvent the issue of hunger. And I highlight subsistence farming, as it does not have an exclusionary element to it compared to commercial farming that has a precondition of capital. The point is that commercial farming alone cannot be a strategy that can fully elevate poverty. The plausible innovation is to use both and commercial farming. These farming methods can work for both the rich and poor, as those who cannot practice commercial farming can always practice subsistence farming. Subsistence farming is a very inclusionary farming strategy, as it does not need large sums of money and extended acres of land. It is a farming strategy that ensures that people are able to sustain a living. It can be implemented by both groups in urban and rural areas. Those in urban areas will not be limited in any way, as they can build small gardens in their backyards or gardens in their rooftops. To further highlight the favorable stances of subsistence farming is that it can be a good, innovative strategy to elevate poverty if taken upon by the youth, as it can provide them with practical agricultural skills that will help them one day open their own farms should they wish to do so. Another innovative method of farming, which has great potential, is the integrated farming method using Nexus. This is an interesting approach that can be explored by the youth, as it combines water, energy, food, soil, and waste. Some of its benefits include increased investment opportunities, job creation, and cost effectiveness. Its core belief is that all resources of the environment are intertwined. To further elaborate on its efficiency without making this an agricultural lesson, I exemplify activities explored by my Ugandan peer, Emma Naluyima, that uphold the principles of the integrated farming method. She, for instance, owns nine pigs and uses the pig's dung to source her chickens and soil with nutritional food. She achieves this by exposing the dung to air dry for 6 to 8 hours to attract flies, who then lay their eggs on the dung, which ultimately leads to the reproduction of maggots, and uses them to source her chickens with food, as they do have good nutritional value. This is just a smaller part of the eco-friendly benefits that this farming method uses. If more of the youth practice integrated farming, this has the potential for startup community gardens where people sell produce within their communities at cheaper rates, which can be an advantage in cutting transportation costs and eliminates the middleman. So the question is, ladies and gentlemen, what do we do now? Do we let that 18-year-old boy or girl who just finished their matric get stuck in the seemingly never-ending matrix of pseudo-realities where the world is progressing, but he or she is still unemployed? Do we let the rural kid also work hard just as his peers are doing in private schools and make something of himself, when the blatant truth is he has less of a chance making it than his well-off contemporaries? Do we have more of such forums where brilliant ideas are shared in all sincerity, but very few of them are implemented, and when implemented, it's to a lesser extent than expressed here? I implore you to have a dance with reason and see if you'll pick up a few steps from her, steps that will not only lead to clearer rumination, but decisiveness too. I'm challenging everyone to act out that which they know to be good for themselves along society as a whole. Am I questioning the place of the farmer practicing traditional agriculture in the face of the world of artificial intelligence? Am I proposing that he needs to be better equipped, and we ought to see that he is? But of course I am. Of course we need to be equipped so that we may equip. Of course, artificial intelligence is on a speed run to overtake that which we've known to be the epitome of human resourcefulness in agronomical endeavors, farming. Of course, the good of everyone will have to constitute of everyone's contributions in public dialogue, workshops, and esteemed forums of intellectual discourse. As far-fetched as this may be to the pessimist, I still believe that within us lies an ocean of potential for good and for bad, but I advise that we transcend our state of being and become our very own hope. The prospect of all that we direct all intents and purposes that the Ministry of Agriculture has towards agriculture herself. Well, much has been said already, and it goes without saying, ladies and gentlemen, that your time and valuable attention truly is much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy Minister, I think in your engagement, I'm thinking this would have actually deserved a standing ovation because Deputy Minister is clapping for you there, because there you go. Even Nomason, I think definitely, so that we cannot hear everyone to unmute and then just clap for her because.
Thank you.
I am glad that you bring us these important questions about we cannot just talk about young people accessing the economy, but do they have access to land? How are they excluded even in terms of accessing finance as well? We're talking about qualifications, but are they going to go into getting trapped again into those unemployed graduates? And these are the issues that we want to look into. And when we open the discussion, I will invite the Deputy Minister to look at how do we then, the issue of unemployed graduate, what is the government stands with that? Because I know with what is being discussed in cabinet and what you share with the Minister of DIRCO, from an international perspective, what are some of the lessons that South Africa is learning as well? How do we then address this important issue of youth unemployment as well, particularly in agriculture? Want to also bring into that coordination that Professor Modi spoke about in terms of we need to start seeing agriculture not just as about land as well, but it's about science, it's about the economy. But then how do they make sure that it features prominently? Well, talking about finance, I know the National Youth Development Agency as well, quite importantly play an important role as far as young youth empowerment is concerned. And these are the people that will definitely give us a good picture, right, on the ground, because these are the people that are interacting with young people almost on a daily. So we felt that it was quite important to involve them as well. I want to take this opportunity to invite Nompumelelo Zuma, NYDA Durban branch manager, with 14 years experience working with SMEs, cooperatives, development, training, and funding opportunities also in the province. So this combined with just talking about what she has done, it's that with an experience working specifically with young people, NYDA, and all aspects of small businesses as well. So we want you to talk to us. I know that as a PhD candidate on strategic management, you can talk about how young people can actually learn a thing or two as well that we are picking up as far as how do we then manage that the things that young people own right now, because we know that even youth below the age of 35 are owning big companies. They've got access to land, but what can they do with all these resources in their disposal as well? I want to also you to address information gap in terms among young people. Is technology making it easier for young people to access the information as well? How do we then make sure that agriculture is attractive? From the address from Alvin, Professor Modi, is like we think agriculture is all around us. Ms. Zuma?
Thank you and good afternoon, everybody. I would love to greet you, Deputy Minister, the Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, professors that are with us, all the doctors, all the attendees, developer presenters, and all other protocols observed. Thank you for the opportunity of involving me into such a very exciting discussions about the young people, which I'm more into, having been working with them for 14 years, I know what is happening in the ground. I would love to say, firstly, it is with the greatest sadness to have had witnessed what have been happening in the two provinces of KZN and Gauteng, being the unrest and the riots happening, which was led mostly by the young people on the ground, mostly because of the lack of economic knowledge and maybe the reasoning behind this and future thinking of what might happen. We might not know the deep reasoning for it, but I'm sure Professor will have most of the journals this year talking about it and will read most of them and having more knowledge of what exactly led to all of this, the unrest and riots and all what has been happening in these two provinces. And now we go to the role of young people in maintaining and promoting the international peace and security. I would love to speak about these few points that I know that the young people do need in order to maintain the peace and have the stability of where they come from and have the background of where they should start from when living this life. From the government, Deputy Minister, including the institutions of mechanism that might help us counter violent extremism and then conducive anger towards that young people have towards the government or any other person in the ground, have a deeper understanding of the roots of all the anger, especially for what happened in the past few weeks, what makes people angry. So the young people need an inclusivity so they can make decisions, they can make, they can have laws in the country, they have a voice also. And the inclusivity in the politics of the country for peace building efforts, including the social and economic development, by opening funding opportunities. Right now we're facing a very big issue whereby the NYDA runs out of funds because the demand for funding is so huge that the supply, it doesn't meet the demand. And having been the only organization that gives more grants in the country, now we're faced with the depletion of funds before young people are all being met in their request. So we would love for government to provide such funding, the mentorship, the trade support, whereby the value chain, the agro-processing, the agriculture, the manufacturing, the ICT, the tourism, the promotion of trade between the countries are very much encouraged to young people so that they do participate in the economy of the country, because that takes away their minds in violence. Because once your mind is engaged into something, then you forget the negative thoughts towards the country or towards any other person. And then we ask the government to include young people in opportunities and vocational training and fostering education like leaderships, the in-service training, the internships that young people should get when finishing the degrees, because we find that people have been staying at home for 7 years after finishing their degrees. We know that with the pandemic, ourselves working full-time, we've been frustrated that I've been sitting at home for 3 weeks now. I can't go to work. You're frustrated by 3 weeks. How much more if I can add those 3 weeks by 7 years? That's the anger people have, young people have. They've been sitting at home, nothing. They feel those 83s, they have CVs, they have everything, but nothing comes. For 7 years, we've been sitting at home. You have no income. Yet you're looking at this 350, which is 350 rands, which is also turned down because of some reasons. And you don't have an income, and you have wants, you have needs as a young person. You can't even go to town to post or to have CVs printed. So it creates anger towards young people. We need
Recording in
we
progress.
want young people to be trained to prevent crime, to prevent hunger. Professor has been speaking about the rural communities, because I'm also from Ladysmith. There's a huge place at home, but it's there just sitting. No one uses it because they don't have even knowledge. They don't have even assets to use the land, but the land is there. Even if the land is there, resources such as water, it's not there. The tractors that cultivate that land, it's not there. Even the seeds to plow, it's not there. So we want government to go there and help these young people, not just the career-wise, but even socially. And then the skills to meet the labor demands. I do believe that government can do much more. I know that our education is working, our education system is working, but the curriculum sometimes also gives us the left-handed route, because you'll be taught at school, which doesn't meet the demand out of school. So the education system should not just tell us how to get employed after you finish the degree, but how do you create employment? Because we just finish school and wait to write those CVs to fill up this Z83. But there's a lot that you can do out of that Z83. We can create our own job opportunities. What about we having maybe a curriculum having just a topic about how to create co-ops, how to get yourself into a cooperative as early as grade 4, how to calculate sales, cost of sales as early as grade 4, so that learners know that for me, I'm not gonna be feeling that's a A3, I'm not gonna be writing that CV, but I'm gonna be creating employment. So our education system and curriculum sometimes teaches us to look for employment instead of creating the employment ourselves. And then our government, maybe you should look out at the socially, then going back to social backgrounds, the child hid at homes. It creates a lot of anger towards the young people, because you'd find that there is an opportunity in Cape Town for me right now, but I cannot leave my siblings who are 10, 12, and 6, because I'm the only person that's there. And there's no income. So I'm forced to be in love with a sugar daddy now to provide for these kids. So going back, you can see the roots are not just about the career, and not just about what we see on the level of our eyes. It goes down deep. So that is why I'm saying, with the government involving young people in drawing those acts, those policies, those employment policies, those changing maybe adding some curriculum into the education system will help us as young people to combat crime, to face this hunger, to maybe face this unemployment, to create our own employment opportunities, because really not all government departments will be able to absorb us as their employees. There's too many of us. But looking into our spheres of government, how many percentage of young people sit in those policy-making committees? We should involve more young people who know our dynamics. I do believe that with young people there, a lot can happen, because we know exactly how it feels for someone not having a job, someone not having something to eat even today. When they come here, we do try by all means as an NYDA to provide, but the NYDA itself cannot do everything. The Department of Health, the Social Development, CETA, CIFA, IDC, or whoever cannot do it all, because the young people is the higher percentage in the country. So we need really to change some policies and get young people included into those policies. I thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Mpumelelo Zuma. I appreciate your honesty. And it's obvious that you are on the ground, you are seeing what's happening, and it does not look good. And because our lived experience that we are seeing every day, it says that young people are crying for help. And the Deputy Minister in his keynote earlier, did talk about a complete participation of young people. I will want you to dive into that as well after we hear from Gabriela Fab what he meant by complete participation of young people, because it looks as different spheres of government will have to play its part to say you've got land that is available. Instead of just lying there, make it usable for young people to start projects. You know, let's get the ball rolling. So we want to get the opinion of Deputy Minister there, but also Prof. Bodi, I know you will have one or two things to say about that. And I would like to take this opportunity further to invite Ms. Gabriela Nechama Faber, is a young activist, a board member of Cadena International Humanitarian Aid. It's an NGO, student prefect at Yeshiva College Girls High School as well, and a legal and policy officer of the SRC at VERS as an ANC deployee in 2020 to 2021 as well. So legal and policy issues, definitely we are glad that we are having young people who are not actually sitting and watching, but people who are participating at various levels where they find themselves as well. So studying a Bachelor of Arts in Law and International Relations at Wits University as well. I'm sure Deputy Minister would like to engage you further in terms of what are you studying, what is your area of interest. You might find that you might share one or two interests in terms of what the portfolio of the Deputy Minister is at as well. So further engagements are definitely important. You have the floor, Ms. Gabriel.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all our fellow panelists who have come before me, to the Deputy Minister, to the University of KZN, to all diplomats, and for just everyone watching today. I think it's such an important discussion that's being had, and what's so important is that we have people coming from different areas of society, and that's one of the main things that I want to discuss today, is a uniting front and cooperation when dealing with crisis. So if we look at COVID-19 and the current unrest that we have just faced in our country, we need to acknowledge that both of these were two major historical crises that will really, I think, shape our future. And I hope that they shape our future. And I think that's the importance of crises, is that they are built up of something and then they explode. And the thing that we need to do is we need to be careful that we don't get stuck into the explosion, and rather look at how can we take this experience, take this crisis that we're being faced with, and now use it to look at our ways, look at what were we doing right, and what, more importantly, what were we doing wrong that brought us to this situation. And from that, we look at our systems, we look at our partnerships and our ways of dealing with things so that we can change. And so it's about using crises like COVID-19, like the civil unrest that we've faced, not as something that brings us down, but rather as a way to make us change our path and build a better future by looking at the past. So coming from a youth perspective, as a youth activist, really being on the ground through this experience, I want to say that I think we mustn't be deluded by the civil unrest that it was coming from. Yes, it did have its political elements, but what I see as the youth, it was anger, it was frustration, it was desperation that brought about this. And we need to look, I personally came from a very privileged environment, very secluded, where I was only surrounded by white people, and really just went on with my day, living in South Africa for 23 years. And then eventually I went to Wits University, and I could truly, for the first time, I went out of my comfort zone and I could see the crises of our country, because I realized that South Africa isn't just the northern suburbs of Johannesburg, and isn't just the urbanized areas. And the problem doesn't get solved by making sandwiches for the beggar. We have to go out the comfort zone. And for me, what is so sad is that I had to make the decision to leave my comfort zone. I had to make the decision to go outside of my privileged environment. But now I know that there are so many people that won't make that decision. And it shouldn't be a decision that a South African should make, that they must leave their comfort zone to go and be part of the country. We need to look and see, why is it that there is such a separation? Why is it that we have the privileged and the underprivileged so apart? And that's where we need to realize that white people are holding on to this privilege and not exposing them to the true realities of our country. So this monopolizing of the privilege then creates anger amongst the youth. And this anger comes from, we have, the youth now is sitting at 1 or 2 generations, it's 2 or 3 generations post-apartheid. So we have the apartheid generation who was promised equality, who was promised a ridding of poverty, who was promised no more racism. And then we have the next generation who is now living with all the experience of those unfulfilled promises. So it is to no surprise that we will have civil unrest, that our country will only respond to violence, because it is apartheid that created that violent society. And so looking at this crisis, we need to look at the deeper issues and not take it just from a surface level. We need to not just look at the individual, but look at the society and the individual within that society, because it cannot be one or the other. And we have to make sure that we're creating communities with cooperation of the youth and the elderly. And we see this youth, people like to say that youth, we opportunists, and we like to cause, often when we go to protests, everyone saying, why is the youth causing this row? But the question should be not why is the youth causing this row? How can we utilize this row to benefit our society? How can we use this opportunistic, this power, even this anger that youth is feeling in South Africa, to direct it, to channel it, so that it's not used for destruction, but used for growth? Because youth has all this energy, but because it's not given channels of operation, platforms for growth and usage, it has used to damage. And when we look at the looting, we must understand that we are dealing with people who have nothing to lose, who don't have food. What was the thing that was most looted? Was food. And when we look at this, we need to understand that when someone has nothing to look at the consequences or the risks, they will only have to be forced to look at what is there to gain because of their desperation. And this must constantly be recognized. We cannot blame the youth for behaving like this. We rather must empower the youth to channel their energy into more productive ways so we can have sustainable development. And we must acknowledge, what is the sustainable development? Because sustainable development can only come when generation gaps are closed. We cannot have this tokenizing where a youth is put into boardrooms so that they can be the tokenized youth representative. They need to be there so that they can be key decision makers, representing an entire generation. The elderly need to open up the door for the youth to exist, for the youth to succeed, and for the youth to perform. And bringing it back to our subject today of food systems, we have to take energy and skill it and skill our population. Why is it that every time that, are working in humanitarian, we're not a charity, we're not an NGO where we donate? Because there's a problem in this country, because there's so much hunger. Every time there's a crisis, we immediately resort to donations. might feed the stomach right now, but it is destroying the community later on. And we have to rewire, because it's hard. It's not easy to say when someone's standing there starving, let's plant a garden. Let me give you seeds to water on. Because this country wants things right now and right here. But that's not going to give us a sustainable future. That's not going to allow someone to, a piece of bread gets eaten, it cannot regrow itself. Whereas a seed can plant into a tree and feed much more people. And we need to stop working with just one part of society. When we look at health, we need to incorporate with health, with environment, with food security. We need to work with all parts of society. Before I got involved in politics, I used to be involved in NGOs. And eventually I started getting irritated with this idea of donations, because food is not going to solve poverty. We need to look at systems and policies to save poverty. And now with this whole crisis going on, I went back to base, because my dream is to try and create a South Africa and the government and politics working together, because government and politics can serve long-term solutions. But in the meantime, we do need to feed that person. And that's where the NGOs can come in. And we need to see a better working force and working platform for these NGO groups in those policy decision-making, so that it's not just a policy, but that the policy becomes a lived experience. And so I say that we need to have cooperation with all spheres of society and government and corporates and civil society and traditional healers. We need that cooperation. We need to channel our youth as ambition, power, and growth. We need to get rid of tokenizing and skill and voice and open the doors for our youth. And we need to look at sustainable development, close our generation gaps, move powers into platforms of productivity, find food systems as opposed to food donations. When we look at changing a society and we look at changing the environment, before we can go and clean those areas, we need to clean the minds of our people. We need to restore their minds and how they think in order to change how they act. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Gabriela Faber. Charlotte Lobe, COO at the Department of International Relations, saying that thank you for questions. She's glad you bring up this
graduates, also in particular in the agricultural and agri-food systems. One is that, and I'm happy that we representative from, there is an institution, Tali, that is called the South African Graduate Development Agency. It is SAGTA. It is responsible to sanitize the database of all unemployed graduates. It works then with the Wits Business School for Entrepreneurship and with a number of government agencies. Young people that are graduates should do. Tend to be able to deposit the information into the database of SAGTA. The second issue is that your National Youth Development Agency, it's of course a key instrument to help us respond positively to unemployment of graduates. I want to, for example, raise a matter that now during Youth Month, during June 2021, for example, the Premier of Kise
Recording in progress.
to pursue agri-enterprise opportunities, but secondly, that becomes also more knowledgeable to pursue other cross-sectoral type of opportunities. So I thought I must raise that. The second issue that I need to speak about is that, look, there is what is called in the day, is that young people must be seized with opportunities of that the economy provides as it relates to food systems is concerned. For example,
final comment from other three speakers as well as we conclude. Prof. Modi.
Thank you. 156 seconds. It's much more than 10, right?
Not bad. It's not
possible.
Oh, well done, ladies. I mean, I'm very impressed by the young ladies who spoke. I think it's important that I highlight this. Just the three things I raised. Indigenous, why indigenous? Food rescue, relationship with Mexico. Let's start with indigenous. You know, it's very important that it's the fact that there's knowledge that is only based in Africa, okay? And that knowledge needs to be translated that can change Africa and the world. It's in that context that we should actually emphasize that it is the knowledge of Africa. You know, Africans know more about soil than what we teach kids at school. You know, we could be selling all sorts of face things for ladies if we relied on what the rural ladies are doing with soil. You go to them, they will classify the types of clay more than what you can find in a textbook. So let's emphasize that of the knowledge system. You say it is your indigenous knowledge. Let's make it part of the curriculum. The food rescue, this is a very important question. It's amazing. When I was running early in the morning, one thing that I thought about was what happens to the food that we throw away? Do you know, the fact is this, for the middle class, 40% of the food is actually wasted at the table. People don't finish their plates of food. I mean, go back to your home. How many kids finish their food? And as a consequence of that, we actually die. What we need to do is the recycling. When one of the young ladies was speaking about the recycling of the pig manure. Let's identify those. Let us have environmental systems in the peri-urban areas where we separate glass from paper and we put food aside, and we start companies for young people to take that food and turn it into something else. But Mexico, you know, our university encourages people to have collaborations outside the world. And I want to come back to your point. How many municipalities do we have in South Africa? It's almost 300. How many of them have got LED programs that connect young people, women, and generally the youth to opportunities that are linked to agriculture, where the value chain system is defined to create opportunities where a cooperative is linked with young people? You may even be sitting in Durban, but you are actually involved in agriculture at Mkababa, in Venda, and so on. So our university, in my department, we are starting a small-scale agriculture association, we call it Kwasa. This is where we're going to be targeting the municipalities. The local municipalities have memoranda of agreement with them. When we bring people from Benin, you're going to make them part of this system. And we want to identify land in the rural areas. We are going to go to Ezakhenisisi, wait for us. We take that land, we make people active in it, and that way we will then have collaborations with CIMIT and other people all over the world. And after Kwasa, KwaZulu-Natal small-scale agriculture, we're going to have EXA, Eastern Cape small-scale agriculture, Limposa, Mbusa, and so on. And once we do that, the government is going to be attracted to it, particularly if it creates jobs and addresses issues of environmental challenges.
Thank you so much. Really appreciated that, Prof. Dimpo, Maseko, concluding remarks. You've got about 2 minutes. How many seconds is that? I'm not good with maths. I'm a human scientist, and maybe that's why it's important to also include mathematics in what we do. Dimpo, concluding remarks? Okay. Seems as if she is maybe battling to connect with us. Gabriela Faber, as we conclude, there was that question earlier as well in terms of marginalization. Can you please give just a concluding remark?
I think with marginalization, the thing that often happens is that it's very unfortunate, but once one marginalized person enters into the space, it's important that they open up the space for another marginalized person, because once you make it there, you don't want to be there as the only woman, as the only youth, as the only black person, as the only white person. You don't want to have an only one. You want to have a we. Because we as South Africa, we are the people. And as soon as we realize that, then we can use our crises to go into future innovations and sustainable development. Let's close the generation gaps. Let's empower, let's have platforms with the necessary resource support. Yeah. Thank you for today. It's been an absolute privilege, and I look very forward to interacting with all of you in the future. You're more than welcome to contact me on any of my social media platforms, Gabriela Ngamafaba, and let's unite. Let's unite through this unrest. Let's unite through this desperation, and let's rebuild. Rebuild the minds, rebuild the hearts, rebuild communities, and rebuild South Africa.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much.
I would love to say thank you very much for this platform. I am looking, as the NYDA, we are really looking forward to having young people represented in all spheres of government. And also, what I forgot to say is that it breaks our heart that departments send back the money that they have for grants